presentation of Southeast Missouri's ESPN Radio Sports Network. It's time for the Red Hawks Coaches Show, live from Wings, etc. Hear the Coaches Show every Monday at noon on SEMO ESPN 1220 and at 93.5 FM. Also at SEMOESPN.com and the SEMO ESPN app. Plus also watch the Red Hawks Coaches Show webcast live at SEMOESPN.com. Now,
somebody go live.
Let's go live to Wings, etc. for the Red Hawks Coaches Show.
Welcome in to the Red Hawks Coaches Show. We are at Wings, etc. in Cape Girardeau, and we will be in the Jackson location next week. Just give you a heads up as far as scheduling purposes go, but we are here, and we are ready to go. The lunch is smelling terrific. If you would like to join us for lunch, we've got plenty of room for you. You can stop by if you're unfamiliar with Wings, etc. They share the parking lot with Steak and Shake right in front of West Park Mall, so you can't miss Wings, etc. And don't forget about their award-winning jumbo wings on Mondays. They are just 69 cents, so that is an outstanding price. Mondays only. And if you're not in the mood for wings, no problem. They have a full menu featuring their freshly made burgers. They have wraps, subs, quesadillas, entree salads, smoked ribs, and much more. And their famous appetizer lineup, check that out. If you have not had their ultimate nachos, then you have not treated yourself well. Also, their brand new spicy deep-fried pickle chips available here at Wings, etc. Good food, great times, the home of the Red Hawks Coaches Show. Coach Brad Korn is here. We will talk with Nana Akenton coming up in just a little bit, and we'll ask him about that highlight reel dunk that he made against Morehead State on Saturday. Coach Brad Korn joins us talking about the Nana dunk. It won't be the last time we talk about it. I know they sent it to ESPN. I don't know, did it make the top 10, or do we know?
I don't know, actually. Honestly, I'm not sure. I think we got some people saying maybe it did or didn't. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Phil Lady says no.
No.
But I know that Phil retweeted it. So an opportunity maybe to get the exposure there for Nana Akenton. Tell me what you saw from the bench, because it was a Chris Harris drive. His shot banked a little strong off the backboard and then the rim, and then all I saw was a red cape out of the corner of my eye. That was it.
Yeah, it was pretty much the same thing that I saw. I was, again, I was watching Chris, if there's contact there or whatever, and then all of a sudden you just see this. You see him flying in, and then all of a sudden his back is to the basket, and then, he flushes it behind his head. It's, we were talking before we got on air here, and it's just I don't remember seeing a play like that before in my career. So just we know Nano's very athletic, but to be able to make that play in that type of a situation in that game was pretty impressive.
Very impressive, and that's probably as loud as the Show Me Center was all day.
Yeah, I think it caught everybody by surprise, because you see him jump and get the ball, and you're like, okay, we got a rebound, and all of a sudden he just turns and boom. Yeah, it just was very, very impressive, and it caught everybody by surprise.
Got to ask him if he's ever made a more exciting play in a basketball game than that. Yeah. I'll be interested. If he has, I want to hear about it.
Yeah, me as well.
Transfer from Nebraska for 2 years. We'll talk with Nana Akenton coming up a little bit later on in the show. We're talking Red Hawks basketball. This is interesting what you've got on the horizon here. It is a 4-game road trip, all conference games. So you'll head to Nashville after the show. It's a Tennessee State 6 o'clock game tomorrow. Now, that's a makeup game from a couple of weeks ago. Then you head to Morehead State for a Thursday matchup. Then it's Eastern Kentucky Saturday. Come back home for 10 minutes. And then you head back to play UT Martin on Monday. This is quite an excursion here.
Yeah, and then you continue it on for the rest of the week. You're right back at it Thursday, Saturday, and then again Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So we got 3 weeks here with the makeups and how the league has scheduled those. And again, it's kind of just falls into what the year is going to be and kind of what we all knew or expected it could potentially look like. Unfortunately for us, we're getting it on the front end, but fortunately on the back end of this, once we get into February, I believe it's 5 home games in a row then, if I'm not mistaken. So it's kind of how it goes. Again, we've all tried to be very flexible in this year, this type of a season, and no one ever wants to go on pause, but we're back, we're ready to roll, we're good to go. So it's we talked to the guys a little bit. Now we're still on break without school being in session, so you get a little bit of that NBA lifestyle, if you will. So you're playing, it's one day off, you're playing, one day off, you're playing, and we're on a bus and not a jet, but it's still the play, sit, play, sit, play, sit, and that's really what's going to be. And that's why yesterday was so important, and that's why today will be important, because it's really about your last two practices of real practice where you can get something in or make those major adjustments that you need to, just because of the flow of the game start coming heavy, and then we have to be ready and prepared, and we're not going to make excuses for it. Everyone's dealing with the same situation, so it's just roll your sleeves up and get ready to go.
So not every program has had to pause. Not every program has had to postpone games. There are some programs who've had to postpone games because their opponent may be dealing with COVID protocols. So just exactly take us through what, on a day-by-day basis, do you do when you are paused in a COVID situation because you didn't play? You had 9 days between games. What could the players do during that time, players and coaches, and what could they not do during the time that you guys were in protocol?
The young men that have had exposure to it prior were able to come in the gym and work out. So you're talking a handful of guys coming in. Basically, it's like an off-season individual workout. You're just trying to keep them sharp, keep them going, get them better in their individual areas. So in that sense, it can be a good thing for them, because now you can get a little bit more individualized as opposed to just, guards or bigs or team. It can be a little bit more individual. So those guys are continue to fine-tune and get better and work on an individual basis. But then the other guy.
Could coaches be there?
Yes, we could.
Okay.
Yes, we could. Yep. So we stay distanced, masked, all the same protocols we follow during games and all that. So that's where that lies. And then the guys that are out until you've got the incubation periods, you've got the timing, you got the couple-day look back, contact trade, all the protocols that are in place. So they have to stay somewhat isolated in their venues, their apartments. I know Eric Reed, they've got a little balcony out there. He was jumping rope on his balcony during that time. So we just try to do with Coach Brew, get to him, and hey, here's a body weight type of a workout that you can do in the confines of your apartment. And, so it's a struggle. I couldn't imagine trying to keep yourself in shape as a college kid in your apartment or your dorm. So that part is definitely a challenge. And I think for the most part, you guys got guys like Eric Reed and that'll do some stuff on their own like that. But again, it's kind of hard to say, hey, go out for a run when it's 30 degrees out as well, because now you go out for a run and you're going to end up with some symptoms or a cold, and now you're worried about that being trickled down for everything else. So it's definitely a challenge for those guys, not only just from the physical but also the mental. If you feel perfectly fine, if you've tested negative, but then you got to stay in your apartment, it's a tough deal to have to overcome. Fortunately for us, this was the first time that we've had to miss for us. As you mentioned, there's other opponents that you play that you may have to sit because of them, but it can wear on you, and I hope that we can make it through the rest of the year without having to go on another one.
Yeah, it was a tough situation, and when you have guys who are able to go out and do individual workouts, how different is that than everybody together and you're actually practicing? You're actually running through particular drills. You're going 5-on-5, and you are running the opponent's offense and defense and actually preparing for the team which you played, Morehead State. How different is that while they're in COVID protocol, individual workouts versus a full-blown practice?
Yeah, it's totally different from atmosphere, energy level. Again, in this year in these games and everything else, you have to bring your own energy, but especially in those workouts, it could be just you and another guy, and so now you're going, and really how long can you go with just two guys? You can't go a full 2 hours.
Sure.
You're going to run out of gas. So it's a totally different feel, but those guys that were in the gym had a good mindset. And again, we try to focus a little bit more on okay, well, what do you need specifically as an individual that we can help or work on right here, right now, still while incorporating the things that we already naturally do. And with the guys that we had, you could do a little bit of both just because you had a good enough blend of guys to where you could do almost a little bit of a 5-on-0 skeleton offensive type actions, if you will.
And as far as when you watch the game on Saturday against Morehead State, as a coach, you see a heck of a lot more than just the average fan. What did you see? Did you see rust? Did you see guys whose aerobic conditioning may have been compromised a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. And, really at 31-31 at half, really pleased with how we played. You're always going to have those ups and downs. And I knew in the second half, okay, at some point it's going to come where you're going to hit that little bit of a lull. You can't mimic game scenarios. You can't mimic that when one practice out of a 10-day layoff. So you knew it was coming at some point. And in the past in our games, when we've hit those little bit of a lulls, we've been able to fight back. And I think then when we hit our little lull in that second half, it just kind of was a little bit of a deflating. We seemed to go down, and that was what was frustrating to me, is we didn't continue with that same fight that we had shown all year long and power through. But as you said, I don't think it's an excuse. It is reality. You hit that wall, and sometimes you just can't. You know, when you're in a regular condition or a regular shape or a regular routine, you can bust through those things. And unfortunately, I think that we just hit that wall a little bit, and then we just sunk, and it just had that bad feel about it. And again, I was frustrated because I think it's probably the culmination of everything. You know, you're not able to practice, but everyone feels okay and fine. But now you got to come out of a one-day practice out of quarantine and play, and so everything's not going to go right. The timing's not going to be right. The conditioning's not going to be right. So it just was. I think all those factors playing in was the most frustrating part.
So you jump out to a 6-2 lead, and all of a sudden, Morehead State goes on a 15-0 run. What did you see?
They got their footing a little bit. We came out with a bunch of energy right away, and again, it's the highs and the lows, the ebbs and flows of the game. So I think that we probably got just a little bit, okay, yeah, we're going to be just fine. And so you relax a little bit. And, of course, they're again, I've said it all along, it's not necessarily who you play, but when you play them. And they're a hot team. They're one of the hottest teams in the league. So, they didn't panic. They got back into their routine. They got the ball back down. A couple times they tried to force it down to Broome, who had been doing really well and came off a big game for them, 14-10, I think, at Eastern the game before. So they're trying to go to him early. It didn't happen, and so he kind of shifted and went to another route. And then they were able to find their footing, and then now they go on their little bit of a run, and it's always a game of runs. These games are all games of runs, and so I think they just were able to find their footing and get kind of settled back down. And then our newness energy, if you will, kind of wore off a little bit, and then now we got to get back recalibrated ourselves after that run, and we did, and ultimately tied it up at going into halftime.
So you're down double digits and come back to tie it at 31. In fact, you had a possession there to really take the lead. Didn't convert on the possession, so you go in to halftime tied at 31. Were you feeling pretty good about where you were at that point?
Yeah, I felt really good, especially all the factors considered, all things considered. Of course, you don't ever want to give a team a 15-0 run, but even so, you did that, and then you fight back and you're tied. And if you'd have told me before the game, hey, here's the situation, you're gonna be sitting out, you're gonna have to play Morehead on one day, and then boom, you're gonna be tied at halftime. We'd have, okay, yeah, we're good, we're good with that. So I was really pleased with the way that we had played. We had 9 assists in the first half, 8 turnovers, which has been a bugaboo for us this year. I mean, the points off of turnovers that we're giving up. Again, we replicated that in the second half, the turnover-wise. But I was really pleased in the first half. Again, I believe we were either tied or up 1 on the rebounding, and they were the leading rebounding team coming into the league or into that game in the league. So to be even on the boards, to be 9 assists in the first half, to be tied, all those factors considered, I was really pleased with where we were.
And you were shooting the three well as well. Nana Kenton, of course, leading the way. He had 4 threes in that game. So the matchup that I think a lot of people really like to see there was Janai Broome and Nolan Taylor. That was a pretty good matchup because I don't think that Broome expected as much as he got from Nolan Taylor. You're talking about a freshman and a really good freshman, but a fifth-year senior who was pretty savvy, and you could see who the veteran player was, I thought.
Yeah, and to me, we know that Nolan can score on the low block with his back to the basket. He's very effective down there. But to me, the biggest thing early in that game, and I think a reason why we were able to get out to a good start, is they tried to go to him right away. 3 of the first 5 possessions, they tried to go down to him. And Nolan deflected it at least 2 out of the 3 times. So he was engaged. He was on his line for post D. So I think that really kind of helped set a tone as well because he never let Broome get comfortable early in the game. He got some stuff late, hit some free throws. They hit free throws. I had a couple guys that made both free throws that are shooting 30% heading into the game. So I thought
one guy was shooting 38, one guy was shooting 41. I mean, just sub 50 guys, and they couldn't miss.
Yeah, it goes like that. And, but again, going back to that, I think Nolan did a very, very good job defensively of not just settling behind. He respected him and respected his game. We talked a lot about that because he's very unassuming, Broom is, the way that he plays and how he's effective down there. He doesn't really get off the ground much, 6'10". He's got length and all that, but very unassuming player. And so Nolan did a very good job. We all did of respecting his game, and he was engaged defensively early, which I thought was a big step for us.
And what I thought was interesting, and I think it's game by game and officiating crew to different officiating crew, there were a few times where Broom was trying to back him down on the post, and at 280, he couldn't move him. And there was contact here. And in the past, we've sometimes seen he's standing his ground and he still gets called for a foul. But early in the game, they were not calling that when he was banging in and stopping Broom down on the post.
Yeah, very physical down there. And the same way for us. They let Nolan back him down offensively as well. So there was a lot of contact going. And there's going to be. You're talking about the guys of those size. And so I think that Nolan did a very good job of playing without fouling in the past, where maybe it was a little bit too obvious against Belmont. It was a little bit too obvious, maybe just hitting him a little too hard instead of just, like, as you said, holding your ground and letting the offense come to you a little bit. But
well, Nick Mazinski is a little different player than Janai Broom, right?
Yeah. And older, too. I think Janai's got the potential to be like that, another year in the weight room and add that weight. But they're both, they both got that lefty. They can use their left hands and not above the rim type guys, but very, very effective in how they move and maneuver and catch and good hands and feet. And so I think that was good for Nolan to be able to bounce back because we didn't have a very good post presence on Mazinski early in Belmont.
Well, Mazinski, I mean, he's a 4-year guy, OVC tournament MVP last year. I mean, you talk about a guy who's got a lot of experience, and they're in his building. If there's any contact, he's probably going to get the call.
Yeah. But again, it goes back to we were ready to go initially early with Broom, and so we were on our line early, and now instead of catching the ball and it's a deflection, well, now they got to go through a whole other play to get the ball back into the post. And so if you just play behind and let them catch it, well, now you're at their mercy, and we didn't let that happen, which is obviously a step for us and a step for Nolan in post D.
There have been some games now. Every one of your games has gone down to the wire with the exception of this one. So you're tied at halftime, and even in some of those games where you went right down to the wire, 4 different overtime games, a loss at the buzzer in a tie game. So everything is right down to the wire. And in a lot of those games, you got out of the gate in the second half very slow, played catch-up, and you were right there with a chance to win the game. This game, you come out, another slow start. They go on a 10-0 run to start the second half. But in this game, the catch-up didn't materialize.
Yeah, and I think, again, it goes back to a little bit of the coming out of quarantine. But, again, we also have to have the mindset of knowing that what we are and who we are in that situation. And so now you're going to come out of the second half, and we had a play in transition. We took a quick 3 that we didn't catch cleanly. And now we come back down, turnover. We come back down another quick 3. And so we didn't do ourselves any favor by doing that, and shot selection and turnovers are killing us right now. So in those moments, because now they go on a 10-0 run, but Janai Broom shoots an air ball layup. They came down and turned it over. And so out of our 3 bad possessions, they had 2 bad possessions. So you're right there with 1 possession. So it's now what happens after that. And in those moments, I think it's one guy takes a shot here, and it's a quick shot. And not only is it a quick shot, but it also sets our transition defense can't get set because it's a bad shot. Not only that, the other guys on the floor don't know where to go, or they don't expect you to shoot that shot. So we don't have any rebounding. We don't have a safety. So there's a whole lot of factors that go into it. Just being one quick bad shot can really set the tone for a multitude of things to happen. And that's what's been happening to us. It's not just been the one mistake. It's been a compound of mistakes. And that's what we've got to get short of, because there's going to be mistakes. We're going to have a turnover. But now there's no reason why you should have 19, 21, 20 turnovers in a basketball game. And I know Moorhead is very good defensively and best defensive team in the league and all that, but a lot of it has been because of unforced turnovers on our end or plays that didn't necessarily need to be made.
And this is really the first time that I have heard you say in a post-game show that you were disappointed with shot selection. Yeah. You've really pointed out, I like our shot selection in plenty of games, and we're running the offense, we're getting shots out of the offense, we're sharing the ball, we're moving it quickly to guys have a good look. This is the first time I've heard you say, we had a clunker in terms of shot selection.
Yeah, and we watched that yesterday with the guys. And again, you fall out of rhythm, or you just, hey, I'm going to make this shot, or whatever the case may be, or whatever your mindset is going into it. It's just not going to work for us to play that way. If we play one-on-one basketball, it's just not going to work for us. There's times and moments where you got to go make a play. I'm not saying that, but again, to start that second half, we take a quick bad three with no passes. We take another one, the possession right after that, one pass, quick three, contested. It's one thing if you've made two in a row, let it fly. And I think that's why early in the year we were leading the OVC in three-point field goal percentage. Eric Reed was shooting a great percentage. Nana can shoot. Eric Reed can shoot. All these guys can make shots, but it's a difference between you don't just shoot a bunch of shots and then make a bunch of shots. You're shooting a high percentage because you're shooting the right shots. And so I think that was the biggest thing. And we didn't have that in that Moorhead game. It was just it was a lot of quick contested shots that just there was no flow to it. And so now it's like this guy takes one, then this guy takes one, and then this one guy takes one, and now that guy takes one. Well, now you've had 4 empty possessions, and add that to the turnovers. What we told the guys yesterday is like we're literally saying here, Moorhead, you get the ball 30 straight times because we're going to take 10 bad shots and turn it over 20 times. Hard to win a basketball game that way. And I think now when you understand it that way and you realize it and you see it on film, you can make those adjustments.
I think the most fun guy to watch for me is Eric Reed. Only got 5 shots in the game. What did you see? And is there a number in your mind going into a game? And I know every situation's different and how guys are defended and different things and how the offense is flowing. Is there a number in your mind of shot attempts you would like to see Eric Reed have about every game?
I don't know if there's necessarily a specific number. I think sometimes maybe he turned it over a couple times when I thought he should have shot it. His very first turnover in the left corner in front of their bench, he should have just shot it, and he didn't. He tried to go make a play, and then he travels. And so I think those types of things, like, well, you only had 5. Well, there should have been 6. Here should have been 7. If we don't turn it over 19, 20 times, there's probably 3, 4 more shots for him and everybody else. So I think that there's shots out there for him. But, again, I think it goes back to the right shots. I'd rather have Eric Reed 4 of 8 and score 15 points and get to the foul line a couple times and make his free throws as opposed to maybe, Eric Reed can shoot 50%, so let's have him shoot 15 times, and now he only makes 2.
Sure.
Well, now he's not shooting 50%. Now you're saying he's not a good shooter.
Right.
So it goes back to that. It's that push-pull, that balance of if you take the right shots, you become an effective shooter, in which Eric Reed is. So I don't know if there's necessarily, we got to get Eric Reed 12 shots tonight. I think Eric Reed is one of those players that can get shots within an offense, and it's going to fluctuate, obviously. But now he's getting to that point to where he's trying to mix it up a little bit. And you saw him get in the lane a little bit. He got in the lane against Tennessee Tech. I think he has that ability because he can shoot the basketball so well.
I tell you one thing. When I first saw Eric Reed, he was more – it seemed like he concentrated more on the perimeter. When I saw him drive, he is quicker than I thought he was. I mean, he's very quick to get into the paint.
Yeah, and we did that at Tennessee Tech. It was that same way. He shot a bunch of threes. Again, it's different. It's all about timing and feel. If you've made a couple threes, fire away. Yeah. You know what I mean? If you're in a heat check, let it go. But just to shoot one, it's not going to work. You know what I mean? It's just not going to go in for you. So now can you mix it up? Can you get to the foul line? Like Eric Reed should have the ability to get to the foul line a couple times. So if it's a game where you're only getting 5, maybe you only got 5, 6 field goal attempts, well, you should have at least 4, 5, 6 free throw attempts. And so now those things all balance out, and now he's at right where he's at with his averages and everything else. So I think, and not just Eric Reed, but I think we've seen that now with Nana as well. And obviously he's going to come up here in a little while, but he's really played a nice stretch, nice couple of weeks of games here to where now I think he's figuring some things out, getting a little bit more comfortable with it, being aggressive but under control.
Right, 20 points against Belmont, and then comes out and has 14 points against Moorhead State. Looking at what Nana has done so far, did you think that he was as good a three-point shooter as he is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Again, going back to what we talked at the very beginning of the season, him, Eric Reed, Chris, when we shoot and we do drills and we do shooting, he's the thing about Eric Reed. Eric jumps really high on his jump shot, which a lot of guys don't do. Kind of pulls it back behind his head a little bit. Nana puts it back behind his head a little bit. But they are very, very, very consistent. And the way Nana shoots in the game is the exact same way he shoots in practice. And so when you're that consistent, and both of those guys go extremely hard in practice. I mean, Nana will be in a full sweat. We practice at 1. He'll be in a full sweat by 1:15. And so when you go that hard and you're that consistent, I don't not surprised by it.
It seems like, and when you talk about your shooters and Chris Harris and Eric Reed and Nana, it seems like the guy with the most unlimited distance is Nana.
Yeah.
I mean, the other guy, not that they can't shoot a few feet from behind the arc, but it seems like those guys just are, right around the arc, very consistent. Nana seems like he's got a little extra distance on that shot.
Yeah, he does. And I think, really, if you go back to the very first game of the year, the KC game,
yeah,
he was hitting some. Now, he hit the one from however long it was,
well,
where you were sitting.
70 feet, yeah. That's.
Yeah, I don't know how, even though he thinks he can probably make them consistently from there, that may be a little too far. But, again, those same type of shots, in rhythm, the right shot after the ball's moved, the ball finds energy. And as long as it's moved and we've gotten it from side to side, tried to make the analogy yesterday with the guys of like a teeter-totter. If you just sit on the one side, the defense all just falls that way and they just load on that side. So it's very hard to make contested shots. So as long as they take the right shots, the ball moves. Anytime he lets it go, I feel very good about it.
How are you feeling about the progress of Jordan Love? Because he had a really good game against Belmont. Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, that was his best game of the year. And he had some moments in the game against Morehead State, 3 for 5 from the field. He finished, with 6 points, 3 rebounds. But he's long, he can jump, so he can be a rebounder for you. And he's a good slasher. He's a guy that can get to the basket. And we'll see how the three-point shot develops.
Yeah, he has got. I was thinking about the other day, like who has really gotten better during the season so far, and I really think he's one of those guys. I think Dylan Branson has gotten a lot better as the season has gone on. So I feel very good about where he's at and the progress that he's made. And again, it's all about habits. And, what are you doing consistently day in and day out? It's not just the games. Obviously, that's what we all see and watch. But for us, it's like, are you in the film room watching the film, or are you just in the film room because we're making you watch film? And he's done a good job. Him and DQ both, they come up and watch film. And so he's really kind of taken that approach. And if we can get him a little bit more engaged defensively because of his length and athleticism, I think he can do that for us. He does a very nice job of sharing the ball. Up until maybe last week or two, he was our leading assist guy. Pretty good assist turnover ratio to that point. Now, can you be able to handle the ball with pressure? I think that'll be the next step for Jordan. Like, hey, can you really handle the ball against pressure? And I think one of the best attributes that he's got is when we drive it, we get to the ball from one side to the next, and it hits his hands on that three-point line, and he just puts his head down, and he's a very good, quick, straight-line driver.
So Parker Long was deemed eligible. The young man from Sykeston got his first collegiate minutes, played 6 minutes in the basketball game. Tell us a little bit about that process to get Parker eligible and where you see him potentially fitting in.
Yeah, initially we tried at the very beginning of the year, and there wasn't a whole lot there. And then they came out with the D1 to D1 eligible. Manny Patterson was able to go, and then so that turned into why wouldn't D2 be eligible? And our administration did an unbelievable job of I don't want to say forcing the issue, but at least making it aware to the NCAA and said, hey, here's what it is, why not? And they fortunately came back and said, yeah, he's good to go. And so that first game was Morehead, and I knew he was going to be nervous, anxious, excited, all those things. But I thought it was important for him to get his feet wet because we're going to need him, especially when we go down to EKU. And they're pressing and running around for 40 minutes, is just to have that another ball handler. And Parker's he's an offensive player. He can really play. He's very good north-south. He plays very fast, frantic almost at times. But he competes. He's a competitor. He's feisty. And I wanted to get his feet wet. It probably wasn't the best game to just kind of throw him out there, but you can't wait around forever. And so I wanted to get him some action, see what he can do. And you saw the anxiety, the nervousness in that one play. We actually was trying to pass it to Nana. He missed Nana right when he was open. Then he just tries to stand there and force feed a wild post pass,
right.
22 feet from the basket, which is not ideal. Those things are going to be a little bit of growing pains with him, and just trying to again get him that feel of what the game's going to be like, because I think he can pay dividends for us down the line, especially as we go in this gauntlet of games coming up. You're going to need all hands on deck.
I know as a coach you kind of say, it might be a little unfair to put him in this game, but we've got to get his feet wet. We've got to get the nerves, out of the way. It kind of reminded me of before Kurt Warner was the quarterback of the St. Louis Rams, they had a guy named Tony Banks. And the first time Dick Vermeil ever put him in a football game, they were at the 1 yard line trying to drive Welcome to the NFL. Your drive starts on the 1 yard line, but you got to get guys experience, right?
Yeah. When is the perfect time? When is the perfect time? When is not a perfect time? He's going to have to get in there and play. And I thought that was important just to get him those minutes. I was trying to surround him with enough veteran guys to where he didn't have to feel maybe he has to do too much. Guys that can kind of help him and direct him. Because the unfortunate thing for him, not only just going and playing in a game and against the best defensive team in the league at that time, is that he's been on scout squad, ever since he's been here, because he hasn't had the thought process of, well, I'm going to be eligible.
Sure.
And so now you're talking and now you're in the middle of January. It'd be different if it was at the beginning of November, to where you don't have as much in offensively and defensively. But now you're talking about the middle of January, where you've got a bunch of stuff in. We got a bunch of calls and, hey, 41 pop this, and then he's like, 41 pop. Wait, he's trying to do a math equation, and so it's a little bit unfair to him to kind of throw him in that situation and expect him to be able to execute that. But
not only to throw him in that situation, but one practice off of quarantine.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So again, a little bit unfair to him, but again, I think he can pay dividends for us down the line, and again, especially with the schedule that we have coming up for the next 3 weeks.
So I guess his mindset totally changes now. I mean, he knows he is a factor. He's going to see the floor. He's got a different mindset, and you're probably going to be throwing more things at him in practice, right?
Yeah. Now it probably it's going to have to shift more to, hey, you have to learn this position in the sets and the offense, okay? And defensively, obviously, is a little bit more all-inclusive, but now offensively, don't try to learn the 1, 2, and the 3. You learn this position right here. This is what you got to do every single time. And then us as coaches, we've got to find those 4 or 5 things that he knows exactly what to do and can execute them every single time. So now when we go into the game and he feels good about what he has to do, and he knows I only have to do these things, and that way he can have success as well.
Boy, we know what kind of physical skills Manny Patterson has. Just played Morehead State. There were several times where he got called for something, and you could tell he was like, oh, really? I mean, there was no one more surprised on the floor a couple of times than Manny. So what does a guy like Manny do, knowing that, okay, we're going to play Morehead, we're going to play the same guys on this Saturday? What does he do to look at film, or you guys coach him up, or say, okay, now it's going to be the same thing. They're going to attack you the same way that they did. What does he do leading up to Saturday, the second time that you're going to see Morehead State?
Manny is a pleaser. He wants to please you. If you tell him to do something, he wants to make sure he did it exactly how you wanted him to do it. So I think when he sees the film, we watch the film, he's very physical on defense, but we need him to be a little bit more physical on offense. Post a little bit deeper, get in better position offensively. Don't settle for jump shots if you don't have to, or after the ball has moved a little bit. So I think he's got those abilities, and then I think he made one of the best plays in the first half. He set a ball screen, he dove, and he caught it right in the middle of the lane. In the way that Morehead guards, they really sink in off the corners, and so he could have turned and shot a shot or try to bowl someone over. As soon as he caught it, he turned to the other side, hit the guy in the slot wide open, catch and shoot 3, and it was the best play. And so I think he's starting to pick those types of things up of understanding and reading the defense. Okay, here, when you get in this spot, here's where they're coming from. Make the next play. And so he came up and watched film the next day and saw his minute. Coach Sam after the game texted me and says, hey, we got to find many more minutes. And I was like, well, tell him to stop fouling. It's hard to play a guy when he's fouling the whole time. So we talked to him a little bit about that, and he's got to be a little bit more aggressive. We talked a little bit about it at the beginning of this with Nolan before the catch. You can be physical, a little bit more physical before the catch, but now if you allow them to catch it, and then that ref is sitting right on that baseline, and now you try to be physical, well, now it's right in his face. He's got to call it. So he's got to make the adjustment of being a little bit more physical on the front end to push them a little bit further out, and now maybe you don't pick up as many of them fouls.
Will it be a little bit more of an advantage for you when you play? And I know Tennessee State is the next game, and we'll talk about Tennessee State, but I'm thinking about Morehead State. You had one day to actually get everybody together and try to explain and show film, here's what they do on defense. It's one thing about you telling them, and it's another thing about getting on the floor with the best defensive team in the OVC. Now that they have been through it, you'll have a little more time to prepare and look at film of how they reacted to it as you get ready for Saturday's game. Big advantage for you in the second go-round?
I definitely think it's an advantage, but I don't know that it's any different than, other than the layoff prior, it wouldn't have been any different if it would have been in a regular swing. we would have had Friday practice, and then we'd have had to play them Saturday.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily think that part of it is much of an issue. You can't simulate it as well as that they do it, obviously, because that's what they do. But as far as the understanding and going through it, I think more of it was just the layoff before, as opposed to just maybe the quick turnaround, which are two in the same, I guess, essentially is what we're saying. But if we were in a regular flow or a regular swing and we were never on a pause, and we played whomever on a Thursday, and then we got to turn around and play Moorhead on a Saturday, well, you're still only going to get that one day in between. Now, what you could have done in the practices leading up to that is sprinkled in some stuff or talked about it a little bit. So I think that's where it catches up with you on this type of a situation.
And I just don't think people understand how hot Moorhead State is. I mean, they've now won 5 in a row. They went to Eastern Illinois, and this is an Eastern Illinois team that beat Murray State. Mm-hmm. This is an Eastern Illinois team that had Eastern Kentucky beat and then lost in overtime on Saturday. EKU hit a 3 at the, with 2 seconds left in regulation to go overtime, and EKU won. They're 12-2, 6-1 in the league. So these are two good teams in Murray State and Eastern Kentucky. Eastern Illinois beat them both, and Moorhead State just crushed Eastern Illinois. Yeah. That was their best game of the year, and here they come to the Show Me Center as hot as they could possibly be. So whether or not they're still going to be that hot when you see them on Saturday, don't know. But you may, other than Belmont, have faced the hottest team in the league.
Yeah, and as you said, EKU, those are the 3 hottest teams. And unfortunately for us, that's what we're staring at coming up here at the end of this week. But I don't. To me, they play such a connected way on both sides of the ball, and I think that's why they're having the success that they are, and they've been able to have consistent. They've been consistent. I don't know if they've been on a pause. And that really kind of messes you up a little bit. And so again, you're talking rhythm, confidence, everything goes into that, and But again, I think for them, in the way that they play, is they're very effective on both sides of the ball, which. I think sometimes you lose sight of that, but maybe they struggle this way on offense, but they're very, very, very good defensively, and really, they just really play kind of the right way for what their team is, and they're really bought into that.
All right, we're going to talk with Nana Kenton. Before we do, Coach, talk a little bit about when you got to the program. Nana had set out last year via NCAA transfer rules after playing 2 seasons at the University of Nebraska. What did you see on film from him? What were you expecting from Nana? And is what you got what you expected, or did he exceed your expectations?
I think he's done everything that probably the thing that's been most impressive to me is you never know. When I first get here, I actually went up and met with him and Chris and just to introduce face-to-face because he still was kind of hanging around just with school and everything in session. So just to meet with them and just say hi, introduce myself. We're kind of from the same area, myself being from the suburbs of Chicago, so we've got common people that know one another. His high school coach, who is a good mentor to him, we know common people, and so you're constantly just checking on this, that, and the other. So watching film and just seeing the things that he does, the physical attributes that he has, what he can do for us. We play him in both spots, guard spot, forward spot, whatever you want to call it. For us, 1 through 4 is really, we want it to be interchangeable. So. Just everything that he's done, probably the most impressive thing, maybe to answer your question, has just been his work ethic, the way that he attacks workouts and practices. And again, he gets tired fast because I think he goes so hard. And so now I think the next biggest thing for him is now as much energy as you exert on offense, can we get that out of you on defense and for longer stretches? Can you give us everything you got the way you have been on offense and defense, and now maybe it's only in a 3-minute stretch as opposed to a 5-minute stretch, so you can be the most effective player that you can be. If he can do that, I think he's got the ability to be one of the leaders of this program in the future because he puts in the work. He does try to hold guys accountable. And you don't have to do everything perfect yourself to be the leader. And I think that's going to be the next biggest thing, not only for him, but for our team going forward as well, the rest of this season and going into the future. Can we have a guy like that we know that we can depend on? Because he can set the example with his work ethic.
Okay, you bring up Chicago. I got to ask you before we bring Nana up here. Cubs fan, Sox fan?
Cubs.
All right. I like to hear it. All right. Good news. All right, we'll talk about Tennessee State with Coach Korn coming up. But first, we're going to bring Nana Kenton up here, get a chance to talk with the Red Hawks Jr. from the University of Nebraska. What was it like playing in the cornfields of Nebraska? We'll ask him when we come back. You're listening to the Red Hawks Coaches Show from Wings Etc. on SEMO ESPN. Welcome back to the Red Hawks Coaches Show at Wings Etc. in Cape. And don't forget, if you are thinking about wings tonight or this afternoon or anytime during the day, don't forget their award-winning jumbo wings on Mondays are just 69 cents. And their half-pound daily lunch specials start at just $7.99. And they are open late on the weekends because the games run late. And we've got the big AFC and NFC championship games coming up this Sunday. This is the perfect place to watch it right here at Wings. The Blues play their home opener tonight. They will play the San Jose Sharks. You can watch Blues hockey right here at Wings Etc. in both Cape or Jackson. And speaking of Jackson, we will be in the Jackson location next Monday at 12 noon after the Red Hawks go on this 3-game tour to Tennessee State tomorrow, Morehead State Thursday, and then Eastern Kentucky on Friday. Let's welcome in Nana Akenton for the Red Hawks. Nana, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Doing great. Can't start talking to you and not talk about that dunk that you had against Morehead State. I'm sure you've – well, first of all, how many times have you watched the highlight?
A couple times. I watched it a couple times.
A couple times. All right. Now, tell us what happened here. Did you have any idea that you were even going to have a chance at a putback? And how in the world did you decide in a split second that you're throwing it down reverse style with two hands?
I guess Chris got the steal. He was on a fast break. He had about, I think, 2 guys in front of him. So I figured it had a chance to come off. So I was just following, hoping that it went in. But if it didn't, I would be there to clean it up. When the ball went up, it didn't touch the rim or anything. So I just jumped and then whatever happened next just happened. Like,
I mean, did you consciously turn, or
no.
you just happened to find yourself, okay, my
Yep.
back's to the basket, here's what I'm going to do?
Yep, that's pretty much it right there.
Now, have you ever reverse dunked a putback in a basketball game at any level?
I didn't get a putback. It was an alley-oop I had in high school, though. I reverse dunked to high school.
So what is tougher? A reverse dunk on an alley-oop where you can kind of call for the ball and kind of set your feet and plan on throwing it down behind your head, or making the split-second decision on a putback in a Division I game?
Definitely the putback.
So what were the comments after the game when people started talking about the dunk?
A lot of people sent it to me. I saw that it was on SportsCenter Top 10, I think, on Snapchat. A couple of my friends sent it to me, so it was pretty cool experience.
Okay, so you probably had a lot of exciting moments on a basketball court. You were a 4-star recruit coming out of Bolingbrook. So you were recruited by a lot of schools, I'm sure. We'll talk about that. Top 150 player in the country. So you've had a lot of exciting moments. Have you ever made a more exciting play than that one?
I would probably say my high school senior year, we were playing against Oswego. It's actually where Coach Corn was born. And we had a fast break, and our point guard was kind of falling out of bounds, and he just dove and threw the ball behind him. He didn't know what he was just trying to save the ball. And then I just jumped up and grabbed it and then got another alley-oop dunk.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So it was a blind alley-oop.
Yep.
Now, that's pretty good.
Yep.
Now, do you have that highlight anywhere?
I do, actually.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Man, I like to get a look at that.
Yes, sir.
That's pretty exciting stuff. Now, when you were at Bolingbrook, a pair of third-place finishes in the Illinois State Tournament, man. So you guys were that close,
Yep.
right?
Yep. I think senior year when we played Simeon, it was a really good team they had that year. They had Talon, he's down there with the Lakers right now. They were loaded that year. They had Keeso Brown, a lot of good players. It was a tough game, but we had a pretty good team that year. Wish we could have finished with the championship, but, we had a successful season that year, I think.
Isn't Chicago Simeon always loaded, though?
Yes, every year.
Man,
every year.
Man, now, do you know anybody there? Do you get Coach Corn in there? We can get a Simeon pipeline going down here.
I'll see if I can work something out.
So Bolingbrook, tell us about playing there and what kind of talent did you guys have? Obviously, top-notch talent with a couple of third-place finishes.
Yeah, my sophomore year when we went downstate for the first time, I was playing under Coach Brost, Rob Brost, him and his assistants. Pretty good program, good team. We had a couple guys play D1 from that level. We actually have a guy on that team who's down with the Rockets right now. He just signed with them. And in our senior year, we were pretty good as well. We finished the season 30-2. Playing with Rob Brost, he just encourages everybody to be a good teammate, and that's, kind of the foundation of most of his players. We don't look to do anything else but just, be a good teammate, be a good family member, stuff like that.
Nana Kenton, our guest here on the Red Hawks Coaches Show. How many Division I guys did you have on the Bolingbrook roster, during your time playing for them?
My sophomore year, we had 3 or 4, I think, and then my senior year, I believe I was the only one.
You were the only one?
Yep.
So you're a top 150 national recruit. I mentioned a 4-star recruit by not only Scout but also 24/7. Tell us about some of your recruiting stories, some of the schools that were interested in signing you.
Obviously, I talked to Nebraska a lot. They recruited me pretty heavy out of high school. Coach Miles, Coach Molinari, they were my main recruiters. I also spoke with SMU, Chicago State, Illinois State. Buffalo was one of my final schools as well. I took a couple visits, Colorado State as well, but I think I made the right choice in going to Nebraska.
Okay, which schools did you take visits with?
I took a lot of unofficial visits, but my only official visit was to Nebraska.
To Nebraska.
Yes.
So anybody that is familiar with Bolingbrook, which is in the Chicago area,
Yes, sir.
and maybe Lincoln, Nebraska,
Yes, sir.
what was that like going from Chicago to the cornfields of Lincoln, Nebraska?
Lincoln's actually not as bad as you would think.
I've been there a couple times.
Yeah. Beforehand, I didn't know anything about Nebraska. I didn't know anything about Lincoln. But when I got there, I was really surprised. The college town is like surreal. The football, the basketball, like the athletics there, get a lot of love, a lot of support. So it was definitely a change for me in terms of it wasn't like a crazy culture shock, but because they're pretty diverse out there as well. But just being in Nebraska, in the middle of the country, like in the middle of nowhere, is just different for me. But wasn't too far from home, so I can go back and forth if need be. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, but the winters are nothing like Chicago. I mean, I know it snows in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah.
It's nothing like a winter in Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah, in Chicago, I remember going to school with like a negative 30 wind chill, and you would still have to walk to school. It's crazy.
Brutal. So, yeah, and we've played at Nebraska in men's basketball, football, and also baseball, and I've seen their facilities there. I mean, these are top-of-the-line facilities.
Yes, sir. I believe they had a facility that the Spurs go to about once a year. They just go and get tested. They kind of just walk on the mat, and it tells them everything wrong with their body. I think that's just one of the coolest things that I've seen there.
What was wrong with your body?
Oh, nothing. It's all good.
So the fact that they were a Big Ten school, you grew up in an area where the Big Ten, obviously is big. You got Northwestern, University of Illinois, Wisconsin, just a little bit north, Purdue.
Yep.
So you're in a Big Ten area in Chicago. How big of a draw was that? Because you probably watched a lot of Big Ten athletics growing up. Was that a big draw for you?
Yeah, most definitely. I think it was a dream of mine for sure. Being able to play for a school that I've watched growing up, it was huge for me. And I also had a guy, Glenn Watson. He's from around the area. He went to St. Joe's High School, played for the Wolves. I watched him play growing up, and to be able to play next to him, at the collegiate level was definitely a great experience.
That's very neat. What was it like to go to a Nebraska football game?
Crazy. As the basketball team, we were allowed to stand on the field during the football game, so being surrounded by 100,000 people, every football game, it doesn't even seem real,
And I've been on the sidelines for a lot of football games, like some pro games and some bigger college games. It's a whole different situation when you're standing on the sideline to see how big these guys are and how fast the game is, right?
Yep. It's definitely a different experience. It's not high school basketball at all.
So you played in 35 games in 2 years at Nebraska. Your second year as a sophomore, you were sixth on the team in 3-point makes, so the three-point shot has always been in your arsenal, right?
Yes, sir.
So how many three-pointers do you have to put? How many three-pointers do you put up per day, and how much do you have to shoot growing up to be as good a three-point shooter at this level as you are right now?
I think that all shooters live in the gym. Whenever I get in the gym, I try to make at least 500 shots. Whether I work out with a coach or I just get on the shooting gun and just get some reps in. But like I said, I think every shooter just lives in the gym. It's a lot of repetition and muscle memory that goes into shooting.
Now, if we asked all your teammates who has the deepest range on the team, I mean, is anybody going to say Nana Kenton?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
So who's got the deepest range?
I think I do.
Okay, now do you work on half-court shots? I mean, you hit one. It was between 65 and 70 because it was well behind half-court. It's a 94-foot court. That's 47 feet at midcourt, and you were at least 10 to 15 feet beyond that. So you work on these shots.
Not at all. I think I just had a hot hand that game. I definitely don't work on that.
You were hot. I mean, when you get in a zone like that when you were at Kansas City, I mean, you were pulling up from deep, and you could tell. I could tell that you could tell the shot was going in. What's that like? They call it being in a zone. What's that like to be in a zone like that?
You just locked in. You got your guys around you. They can see it as well. And they're encouraging you, and you just keep playing. You let the game come to you. You don't really force anything. It's all natural.
All right, it's you and Chris Harris and Eric Reed, all in a game of horse. Who wins the game of horse?
I'll put 100 on myself.
So you are a pretty good shot blocker as well. And I mean, tell us about being, what it takes to be a good shot blocker. It's not just leaping ability. It's not just, okay, are you tall? What does it take to be a pretty good shot blocker?
Aside from athletic ability, I think it's a lot about timing as well. Being able to jump straight up and not foul and, time up your defender's jump before they do. It's not much that goes into it, but I think having the athletic ability that I have, I'm definitely blessed, and to say the least.
All right, how hungry are you guys? You're headed to Tennessee State, a team that you've already beaten again, so they're going to be ready for you. And then you get a rematch with Morehead State, and then you play one of the hottest teams in the league in Eastern Kentucky. Talk about getting ready and powering up for this road trip.
I think we're ready. I think we're really motivated, really hungry. We need to win really bad. We want to win really bad. We just played Belmont and Morehead, two of the top teams in the conference. So I think we've had proper preparation for the road trip that we have. I think we got 3 and then 5 straight home games. So if we can collect some wins on this away trip, I think it'll give us a lot of momentum moving in for those 5 games. Fantastic.
Are you on social media?
Yes, sir.
Okay, where can we find you? Maybe we get you some followers?
Instagram at _hoop_dreams.
_hoop_dream.
Dreams.
Dreams,
Yes, sir.
Plural.
Yes, sir.
Okay, are you on Twitter?
No.
Just on Instagram.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
_hoop_dreams.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll check it out. Nana, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it. See you in Nashville. All right, Nana Kenton, appreciate his time. We'll take a quick time out. When we come back, we'll talk about Tennessee State briefly with Coach Brad Korn. It's the Red Hawks Coaches Show from Wings, etc. Final segment here on the Red Hawks Coaches Show from Wings, etc. Thanks to Nana Kenton. It was fun talking with him. And during the break, he showed me the alley-oop, or the blind alley-oop dunk that he had in high school. And let me assure you, it is extremely impressive. Coach, have you seen that video?
I didn't, but I'm going to make him show it to me on the bus today.
Man, the guy's going out of bounds on the baseline and just flips it up, and there he is. Whew. Pretty nice play. All right, you head to Tennessee State. Tomorrow will be the game, 6 o'clock. You've beaten them, but of course it's overtime. I mean, seemingly, more than half your games are going to overtime. But what was the key in beating Tennessee State the first time?
That was the double overtime one, and just perseverance. I thought that we came out in that game and played really, really well to start it. We didn't start out slow, which is, again, we've talked about that at the beginning of half. So we came out the right mindset, the right energy, and again, perseverance and toughness. Down 7 or 9 it was with 2 to go and come back. And I think that's what we've got to play with, that physicality, that toughness right away. Anytime you play these games, I know people look at records and all this and that, but every game is so different, and you've got to come and play every single day, especially with them. And they've had a couple tough losses back-to-back here, one-possession type losses. So they're obviously going to be ready to go. Coach Penny does a great job. They play extremely hard. So we've got to be ready to meet that challenge from a physical standpoint.
And I'm sure you probably haven't looked ahead to Eastern Kentucky. You may know a little bit about them, but we know about Morehead. I just wanted to get your thoughts on Eastern Kentucky, man. They are really playing good basketball right now.
Yeah, actually early in the year I saw them watch their game against Xavier, and they took Xavier to overtime. And I'm like, wow, they're pretty good. I'm watching it, and it's November. Who knows how seasons or teams are going to evolve? But now you look at where they're at and how they're playing, and
12-2.
They're legit.
Yeah.
They're legit, and especially at home. Obviously, it's a different deal in their style that they play. Very good point guard play. So I mean, none of these games are easy, but that's going to be extremely, extremely difficult. But AW's got them playing really well right now.
So we'll be out on the road through Saturday night. What do you do the rest of the day? Is it practice then bus?
For
today?
Yeah, so today we'll go to. We got practice starting here actually right now with some video, and so we'll head to that. We'll practice from pull out of here at about 4:15. Head down there, get another scouting report film session, and be ready to go. And that's kind of going to be our routine here for the next 2 weeks.
All right, another trip to Nashville. Coach, we'll see you there. Thanks so much for your time.
Okay, you got it, Eric. Thank you.
That's Coach Brad Korn. That'll do it for the Red Hawks Coaches Show. Thanks to Jen and Mike here at the Wings Etc. Don't forget, we'll be at the Wings Etc. in Jackson next Monday. The Red Hawks will play Tennessee State at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. We'll talk to you then.